Hey guys, and welcome to our fourth video in the Learn C++ video tutorial series. Today, we are finally going to get into writing some code and making a program that functions. And as is obligatory with any first program written, this is going to be Hello World. So this is going to be a very simple program that just prints Hello World to the terminal. Now this is going to be a little bit longer than the last video because we're going to go into quite a few different topics. I'm going to go over the include keyword that's going to be required for any libraries that you're going to be using in your code. We'll talk a little bit about what that means. We're going to go over the string object that is part of the standard library included with C++. This is going to be huge because this is used all over the place, just everywhere you're going to be using strings for the most part. It's very common. We're going to talk about some of the operators that are used with those strings and how you can add two strings together, how you could remove some characters from a string and manipulate them, and ultimately finish our program typing and putting out hello world to the terminal. So with all of that, let's jump right in. So to start writing our program, first thing we're going to do is create a new file, and we're going to call this one hello world.cpp. Now at the very top of your program, you're going to have what's called an include directive. What this does is the compiler, as it's working through and looking at your program, sometimes you're going to be using code that you did not write yourself. For example, the standard library that comes with C++. In this particular situation, we're going to be using string, and we're also going to include IOStream. So what this tells the compiler to do is there's a library that's already written called string and a library that's already written called IOStream. The compiler, the first line it gets to is this include and says, okay, I need to make sure I have all the details about string and what that does and how that's going to operate in your program. And it runs out and it grabs the string library and it processes that. And now it knows, okay, I know everything I need to do if I see the strings showing up within this code. IOStream is your input and output stream. This is what allows you to write things into the terminal as well as grab information put in by the user from the terminal and push that back into your code in order for you to manipulate and do something with this. So in the past, when we talked about waiting on the user to say yes or no for something, you want them to type something in to the terminal. This is the library that we're going to use for that. Okay, the next portion of this code is our main function. Now the main function is where the compiler knows this is the entry point to the program. So out of all of the code that you've written, any libraries that you have out there, anything that you have put together that you're going to be using within your program, everything starts in main. And so the compiler, again, it reads through here, it sees our includes, it says, okay, I need to grab this and get this ready to use. And then it goes, okay, here's main. I need to go into main to start our program. Now, the first thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and declare our variables. So remember we talked about the primitive data types. You would treat a string just like you would any other primitive data type. We need to tell the compiler this particular item that we're going to create is a string. Now you might be asking, what the heck is all this? And what this is this is called a namespace operator. So when the compiler reads this, it goes here and it sees this std colon colon, and it says, oh, we're going to be finding this in this directory that we've put in up here, this string directory, and that's under the standard library. So it goes back, it finds this, and it goes, oh, this is a type of string. The next thing we want to do is go ahead and name our variable. We're going to just name this hello. And then the way we're going to declare this string is going to be this way. So we've got standard string hello is equal to, and what do we want to make it equal to? Well, in this scenario, we're just going to make it equal to hello. Now, every line of code ends with a semicolon that tells the compiler, hey, that's the end of this particular line. And we're going to go ahead and make another one called world. Like this. And we'll make one last string, and we're going to call this string output. Oop. Perfect. So now we've got hello, world, and output. But how do we put that into the terminal? Well, the way we'll do that is using cout. So you have standard cout, and let me just back up here a second. I want to talk about some of the different things that we can do with strings. So I pulled up here just some of the main functions, some of the main things that you'll do with a string variable. One of those could be copy. Say you have a string and you want to make another string that is the same exact string as that one. You can copy a string from one to the other. You have find. So let's say you have a string and you want to find something specific within that string. Maybe your string is a whole paragraph and you just want to find the word the. Well, now you can search through and find the word the within that string. Substring, maybe you want just a portion of it. Now, substring is a little weird, and maybe we'll do a whole video specifically on strings and their functions. To talk about how to use substring, how you can find specific points within a string. But substring is something that you may use a lot in the future. Compare. So this is you want to check and see if two strings are equal to each other or if one is larger than the other. For example, a password, right? Maybe somebody needs to enter in a password to access something, and you've got that password saved somewhere. You want to check and see, does the password they entered match the password that it should be? Pushback. Pushback is nice. It allows you to add character by character to the backside of a string. So if you have hello and you want to add a space, you can use pushback to add that space. Popback, that allows you to take characters off of the end of a string. So maybe, somebody made a mistake and added an extra A at the end. You can use popback to pull that character right off the end there. And then operators. So string is built being able to work with operators. And we're going to use the plus equals and plus in this particular video. When we do a full string video, we'll go over some of the comparison operators. You can check to see if the value of a string is less than another one. And that actually goes back to characters. So if you remember from the primitive data types video, we talked about how each character is actually assigned a decimal value. And that decimal value allows you to compare whether a string starts with a letter that has a lower value than another character. So if we have something that like apple and banana, well, we know that apple, A, has a lower character value than bananas, B, has on the ASCII table. And so you can actually use this to alphabetize different strings that you've taken in. So very, very cool stuff. all kinds of possibilities for this. So jumping back into our program, from here, what we want to do is go ahead and we're going to type in standard namespace operator. So we're going into the standard namespace, and we're going to use something called cout. Cout allows us to print to the terminal. So we're going to follow that up with the insert operator. So the insert operator here is just 2 less than signs. And we'll go ahead and cout our hello variable just to show you what this is doing. So cout is a stream, and what this is saying is we want to take hello and we want to push this to this stream to the terminal, right? Now at the end of main here, we do need to return something, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and return exit success. Now all this means is that if all of this stuff ran successfully without any errors and no issues, it's going to reach this line and it's going to go ahead and exit the program. And actually, I'll show you. You can see it says exit success 0. 0 means there was no issues. We exited the program successfully. Now, when you start to get into error catching and you start to get more in depth with the programs, you may have situations where you want to return something else. Maybe you have an error code, for example, and you want to return 123, just in case, this means this portion of the code didn't work. You have the ability to define that whenever you need to. So in this particular one, we're not going to do any crazy error handling here. We're going to go ahead and just print out our hello variable. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull up the terminal. And let's make this a bit bigger. And I'm going to navigate to our C++ projects. Folder, and this is in our tutorials folder. And hello world. Now, what I've done here is we're in the hello world folder, and you can see I have the hello world.cpp file here. My question is, how do I compile this? We're going to do G++, that's in the name of the program that we want to run. We're going to do -wall. What that does is that provides flags, any flags the compiler finds while putting your code together. We're going to go ahead and use, we can just use the latest version of C++, so we don't need to make any changes there. So then the next thing we want to type is hello world.cpp. So just to go over this again, G++ tells us that, hey, the compiler we're going to use is G++. That's the program we want to run here. We're going to use -wall telling us we want all the available flags that the compiler finds. And then this is the file that we want to go ahead and compile. It's hello world.cpp. Hit enter, and there are no errors. Now, if I show you the folder, you'll see we have hello world.cpp, and now we have this file called a.out. That's actually our compiled program. We do have the ability to rename this, and I'll show you the next time we compile how to do that. For now, we're just going to go ahead and run our a.out program. And see right here, it prints hello. Fantastic. Not quite what we're going for though, right? We want to print hello world. And we also have, you see how the line here, it doesn't quite end, go to the next line. What it does is it just starts typing the rest of our Drew at Drew Linux VM, and it doesn't go to the next line. Well, we want to go ahead and fix that. So here's how we're going to do that. So let's go ahead and we're going to add hello and world. Okay. So now we're gonna print two variables, you would think, hello and world. And then we're going to add to this stream operation on this line right here. We're going to add standard namespace, and there's a function called, or a piece called endline. So ENDL. What that's going to do is that's going to say, go ahead and I want to push the hello, and I want to add world to it. And then I'm going to use this to push an end line and move the cursor to the next line. So let's just see what that does. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we can change this, the name of our file. So we have g++ dash wall hello world. And just before this, we'll do it at the end. I want to rename this to hello world. And I can do that using the -o operator. So -o changes your output, and then immediately following, you put whatever you want to name that file, and we want to name it hello world. So now if I look in here, I have a.out, which was our original program, and then I have this one here called hello world. And so if I want to go ahead and run hello world, and you can see here, I now have hello world on a new line, and then it moves on to the next space. Still not quite what we're looking for though, right? We want to go ahead and put something in between here. So going back to our code, so now what we're doing is we want to print hello, whatever this is, plus a space, plus our world variable, and then end the line. Go ahead and save the program. And I'm going to go ahead and remove our a.out program and remove hello world. So now we have just our hello world.c++. And I'm not going to rename it for now. And you can see we have our a.out again. And when I run it, we now have successfully printed hello world. Pretty easy, right? Not too horribly difficult. And the great thing about this is we could change these variables to be whatever we wanted them to be. So I could change this to first one and first two, and then we could have first one here, first two there. And when we go ahead and recompile this, you can see prints exactly the way that we expected it to print. I'm going to go ahead and clear the terminal. So now let's do some more stuff here. I want to look at the how these would change if we add them together. So let's say I have my output and I want to use the += operator, right? And what I'm going to do is have output += first one. Now, whenever the compiler is reading the program and is reading through how to add things together, when it encounters an operator like this, what this is doing is it says, okay, I see first one, +=. Okay, so you want to first add, so output is, we're going to add first to it, and we're going to set that equal to output. So this is the same as if I were to write is equal to output plus first one. these two do exactly the same thing. Reading from right to left, it sees output and first one. I want to add these together, and then I want to save that output, this put together string, as the output here. So this is a nice shorthand way of writing out all of this. Save you a little bit of time. So what's happened here? Now output says hello, but we also want to add this time we will use pushback. So remember that I said pushback was another thing if you wanted to add just a character to the end of your string. And remember from our primitive data types, characters use single quotes. So what this will do is this says output originally says hello. Now it says hello space. And then finally we can do output plus equals first two, because why not? And I just realized I should have done first and second, whatever. First one and first two, why not? So let's go ahead and change our print statement. So we're going to say first one contains right, and then we're going to push our first one, and then we're going to end the line. And I'm going to do a little copy and paste here because it's a little easier. We're going to say first two contains, output contains, first two, and output. Perfect. So now we have first one, first two, and output. And this will put this all on the screen, ending the line after each one. Let's go ahead and save that. I'm going to run the compiler again. And if we run this program, first one contains hello, first two contains world, the output contains hello space world. The next thing we want to do is we want to take a look at which of these words, hello or world, would come first alphabetically. Well, we can do that using the comparator operator. So what we can do is typing an if statement. We can say if first one is less than first two, then we want to go ahead and see out first one. And we're going to push that into there. And end the line. Now, what if it's not? Well, we can use something we haven't used yet called an else if statement. And an else if statement, what that does is it comes in and it's going to check first if this is true. If this is true, it's going to run this line of code. If it's not true, then it's going to check this else if statement. And we're going to check if first two is less than first one. And let's use greater than. Let's use the greater than one. First one is greater than first two. Now, it's going to run this line of code. So now it's going to run this line of code. So if first one is less than first two, it's going to run here. If first one is greater than first two, it's going to run here. But we still have another condition that we haven't accounted for, and that is, what if first one and first two are the same? So the way we can do that in this particular statement is, if neither of these are true, then this is what we want to run. And that's going to be whatever we write in this code. And we're going to put in quotations, and we'll just pick one, and end the line. Boom. So currently, when this runs, it should run, we'll go ahead, we don't need all of this anymore. So we'll comment all of that out. And so currently what should happen is we'll enter the program, we'll see hello world. It's not going to print anything, and then it should only print whichever of these comes first alphabetically, which should be hello. So let's go ahead and compile this. Why did that still run? I may have forgotten to save the file. There we go. So that's another thing too. Always remember to control save, or make sure to save your file before you compile if you make any changes. Otherwise, it's not going to pick up all of those changes. So now you can see it just types hello because that's the one that came first. Well, what if we have apple? Well, now it should print apple, which is going to be our second line. Compile it again, and it prints apple. Okay, well, what if they both say hello? Once again, we can compile our code, and they both say hello. And there we go. So this is our first program, Hello World, with some tweaks and some extra pieces and parts in there. And I hope you enjoyed the video. I look forward to seeing you next time, where we are going to talk more in depth about functions and what we can do with those functions. So thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you next time.